I'm going to talk about what we're terming small publisher tools. Actually, I'm going to introduce a kind of publisher that is quite a prevalent kind of member that we have at CrossRef. I'm going to talk about the kinds of problems that they have when they're trying to integrate CrossRef services. I'm going to talk about why we care about their problems, and I'm going to also talk about the solutions that CrossRef is introducing to fix those problems. So this is a slide showing the 12 founding members of CrossRef. Some of those don't actually exist anymore. But you can see there's some sort of kind of commonality between them. They're all very large publishers. They all have over $1 million in publishing revenue, some a lot more than that. And the interesting thing about this group is that these are the kind of publishers that CrossRef services were initially built for. So this is really what we had on our minds when all the technical infrastructure for CrossRef was built, and we decided how publishers would interact with CrossRef and deposit metadata with us. The interesting thing as well is that actually this size of publisher only accounts for about 18% of our membership. So in fact, 82% of our membership are much smaller publishers. They come into I think they're in the lowest category, the lowest tier of our membership. So they pay $275 a year, I think. Far less normally than $1 million in revenue. They also, sometimes only are publishing a single journal or a few journals. They tend to be open access. They're often coming from BRICS countries or low or middle income countries as defined by the World Bank. They're often using PKP's Open Journal platform for hosting their content. And nearly all of them are having problems and having difficulties when trying to integrate CrossRef services. And that goes from, actually just depositing metadata, registering DOIs to more advanced things like using FundRef, Crossmark, and so on and so forth. It's interesting to look back at the mission statement for CrossRef. You can see quite clearly that when CrossRef were formed, they really weren't talking or thinking about just a group of large publishers. It really was about providing services for the whole of the scholarly publishing community. So why should we care that these kind of small publishers are having problems? Well, for the publishers themselves, those are small publishers that are wondering, whether they should bother with CrossRef. The issue that they have is that the DOIs are used to enable a lot of services, not just CrossRef services, but third-party services that build on top of the DOI system. So if they don't have DOIs for their content, they're kind of actually excluded from a substantial amount of the technical infrastructure that is now available in our industry. Specifically, DOIs make content discoverable. If you think about things like article level metrics or kind of things like Kudos and other services that are trying to market scholarly content, they all require content to have DOIs. Right? And in that sense, DOIs make content visible. And this is a bit of a pompous thing to say, but I think that if journal articles don't have DOIs, to some extent, they're actually invisible because they can't actually work within the technical infrastructure that we built. This is a particularly acute problem when you look at content from BRICS countries and low-income countries. So it's a case that in a lot of those countries, the content from it just does not have DOIs. And so actually what we have at the moment across the world is effectively a two-tier ecosystem for scholarly content. Those from developed countries where publishers tend to assign DOIs to their content, and those from developing countries where they don't. There are some slightly more selfish reasons why we should care about the problems and the fact that we're not getting all of this content into the DOI system. For big publishers, the issue is that DOI links actually drive traffic to their content. It's true that big publishers account for the majority of content out there. Therefore, they're going to account for the majority of links that are outbound from other people's content, and therefore they're going to actually be the greatest they're going to benefit the greatest from additional content being brought into the DOI system and being having the citations from it linked out via DOIs. I have it on good authority. I'm not actually a lawyer myself, but I believe that since CrossRef is a non-profit organization, if we discriminate and we only serve part of the scholarly publishing industry, then actually we can effectively lose our non-profit status and tax-exempt status. So there you go. It's a problem for us too. I want to pick up on one particular point that I was looking at. A lot of these small publishers tend to be using OJS, and I think about 7,000 journals actually across the world are using OJS. 400 CrossRef members themselves use OJS. They host content on OJS. I don't actually know how many journals that represents, but it's probably far, far greater than 400. So this actually, OJS is actually quite a good target for improvements of integration improvements from the perspective of small publishers. And actually, we really want to make it very easy for OJS publishers to become CrossRef members, to interact with CrossRef and use our services, because we actually want to encourage the rest of those 7,000 journals to decide to join CrossRef. So to try and solve this, actually, we've been working with PKP, the Public Knowledge Project, who develop OJS, the Open Journal Platform, Journal System. And starting back in March, I think, in Vancouver, we started a collaboration with them to improve the integration between OJS and CrossRef. So for a while, it's been the case that if you have a stock OJS installation, you would have to actually manually export XML from it and then manually import it into the CrossRef system. This has been a massive pain for a lot of people on that platform. So we set about trying to improve that, and what we came up with was an improved plugin for OJS that's now, I think it was launched in the 2.4.5 release of OJS, that automatically deposits metadata from OJS to CrossRef as you add articles to that system. It's quite an advanced plugin. It allows you to deposit all kinds of things like license URLs, full text links, as we were talking about. All of those things are available, and actually we have plans to expand it much further to include funding information once that kind of thing is available in the OJS workflow. Actually, this plugin was launched back on the 18th of September. And here's what it looks like. This isn't very informative, I'm sorry, but this is the best I can do for screenshots on this. So when you look at the configuration of OJS, if you have a 2.4.5 release or later, you can get to this page that allows you to define your user credentials for CrossRef, so you just pop those in, and from that point on, the system will then automatically deposit metadata for new content. There's a kind of admin interface for the plugin as well that allows you to just see the status of deposits with CrossRef, and you can manually kick off and say, oh, I just want to redeposit this if you know something has changed and for some reason it hasn't automatically deposited that. Since it's launched on the 18th of September, I think we've had about 30 publishers that are already using it. I was really pleased to see that 30 publishers were using it, because I was expecting absolutely no one to use it for quite a while, because it takes some time to kind of update your platform to the latest version. So that's great. So I think that kind of has alleviated some of the problems that OJS users specifically have with depositing metadata to CrossRef. So I want to look at one of the other attributes of small publishers, and that is their financial situation, I suppose. So if you look at the fees for CrossRef, actually they're pretty reasonable when you look at the lowest tier of membership. So I think it works out about $275 a year. And if you assume about 60 DOIs, so 60 articles for a small publisher, the total comes to about $448, which you may think, well, that's not too bad. But if you actually adjust that figure across the world for PPP, you start to realize that that's actually quite a substantial financial burden for some publishers in some countries. And you can see, it goes all the way down to Zimbabwe. If you adjust it there, it's like you're talking about the equivalent of $32,000, which is substantial. To kind of alleviate this problem, for a while we've had the concept of a sponsoring entity. We have, I think, about 12 or 13 of these organizations that we work with, including INASP, DOIs, and we waive annual fees for content for under certain circumstances. And back on the 18th of September, we actually announced a new partnership with PKP where we're actually donating DOIs and waiving fees for users of OJS, so publishers that are on the OJS platform that are from particular countries, actually from the World Bank low-income countries and the World Bank lower middle-income countries, some of them, not all of them. If anyone's interested in that, please contact PKP to ask how you can go about getting free DOIs. That's the list of countries that come under this agreement. So the third problem that I want to look at is the obligations that CrossRef members have when they become when they join CrossRef. So we actually require members to display linked references on their article landing pages. So where they display a list of citations from an article, say, they must be linked with DOIs if they're going to link them at all. The second thing is that CrossRef members must register DOIs, and they must register DOIs for all of their current journal articles as they're published. There are other requirements as well, such as long-term archiving. I'm going to leave those aside for a moment, but I just actually want to concentrate on these first two, that publishers must register DOIs and they must link outbound references using DOIs. If publishers are also going to get involved with CrossRef Cited By, where they can find out who is citing their content, there's actually a reciprocal agreement for that system. You have to deposit citations for your own content as well with CrossRef. So actually there's a kind of a common theme here, which is the deposit of citations with CrossRef and the linking of citations, free-form citation text to DOIs that we want to address. And because of that, we've actually built a system that will do this kind of thing. And so we're starting with a pretty reasonable assumption, I think, that the kinds of publishers that are perhaps finding it difficult to deposit lists of citations with CrossRef and link those citations will actually have, right? It doesn't really matter where they come from. Maybe they were originally Word documents and they were converted to PDFs, or maybe they sent them off and they got typeset, whatever. They have this kind of thing, right? They have something that looks like an article with a reference list in it. So what we can actually do is we can accept this file rather than the XML as a deposit. So we can then run it through this kind of system where we actually automatically pull out the citations directly from the PDF. We match the citations to DOIs just by looking up the content of the citation against our database. And then we deposit those linked citations with CrossRef into the CrossRef database. And then as a final step, we provide a system for publishers to actually display linked citations on their pages, on their article landing pages, by looking up that information from the CrossRef database. So I'm just going to kind of go through this system. I'm going to actually show you some screenshots from it, what it looks like, what the workflow is. So as I say, it starts off with a PDF deposit. You can actually upload multiple PDFs. You can just send a whole load of stuff to this system. And you get to a page like this. And what this is actually is, you can see on the left here is a list of citations that have been extracted from the PDF automatically. And for each one of them, we've actually made a best guess about which DOI record actually relates to the citation. So what is that citation actually pointing to? And so as it is, if you click the button on the top right, deposit citations, this would actually deposit this list of citations into the CrossRef system against the DOI that represents this article, calling International Rescue or whatever. As you're doing this, obviously this process is not 100% accurate, so it may accidentally pull stuff out of the PDF that isn't necessarily a citation. It's a kind of heuristic thing. It's not totally accurate. So, and it also may make mistakes about guessing the links to DOIs. So you can actually go in and change not only the citation text that has been pulled out, but also the matched DOI associated with the citation text. And what's going on here is basically there's a citation text at the top, and the system has performed a search for that citation, and it said, well, here's my 4 best guesses of which DOIs actually match that citation text. And the top one is currently selected. Beyond that point, then there's the next step is to actually get those citations onto the publisher's website, onto the publisher's landing pages. That actually requires a JavaScript widget that we have, so people can take that, they can put it into the HTML of their landing pages, and it will, when someone requests the page, it will go away, look up the citations from CrossRef and insert them into the page. That pretty much covers the kind of solution for getting citations into CrossRef and linking citations and allowing publishers to get involved in the cited by system. Much of what I've just showed you actually is available via APIs as well as a user interface. So if you're interested in integrating citation extraction from your PDFs, for example, you can use our API to do that. If you want to deposit those citations with CrossRef, you can use the same API. We've already seen, I think, maybe the kind of the search APIs that we have available. You can use those as well. You can use those to do your own matching of citation text to DOIs. All of that is available at api.crossref.org. So this is kind of ongoing work. The underlying technology that we're using for the CrossRef depositor and the extraction of citations from PDF actually has a lot more to give, I suppose. We can start to look at doing things like pulling out journal article titles, author lists, author affiliations, things like that. So we could actually take a lot more metadata from the manuscripts rather than only accepting it via XML. So that's those kind of features are probably going to be coming, I don't know, in the next few months to a year. On the OJS side, on the OJS CrossRef plugin, that's also ongoing work. As I said before, we're looking at getting that thing to deposit funding information, to work with Crossmark, to deposit basically everything that CrossRef supports. A lot of the work now actually involves workflow changes to OJS to get authors to input funding information, authors to input their ORCIDs, and so on and so forth. Once that is there, we will update the plugin to deposit that information as well. I just want to quickly thank some of the people at PKP that have worked to get the kind of agreements in place for donated DOIs, and also some people that have worked on the plugin itself. If you're interested in joining the beta for the citation depositor, please email Rachel. I think next week, maybe the end of next week, we're actually going to provide a beta of this system. And if you want to get involved with that, yeah, email Rachel. Don't email me, because I probably won't reply. So thank you very much for listening. Are there any questions at all? I don't think so. Have I?
Yeah. The PDF, getting citations from PDF, is that for cases where publisher has PDF but not XML?
Yeah, so they will have a PDF to use the system, right? They may have XML as well. The issue is that they may have XML metadata. They probably will not have something like JAT, if that's what you're thinking of. I mean, I think that's just not something.
Getting the references from the reference list.
Yeah, exactly. Taking it directly from the PDF. Yeah, so pulling apart the PDF and pulling out the citation list from that.
Just a general comment that we've been at least 15 years now. We've been saying everything's that's archived the XML,
Yeah.
then that's future-proof.
Yeah.
This is not aimed at you or CrossRef, but generally, I just wish we'd stop reverse engineering PDFs and then getting something which we're not sure about. We're doing it now.
I completely agree with you. Right? I mean, this isn't an endpoint, right? This is just a solution to a particular problem for a particular class of R members, right? At the moment, I mean, it would be wonderful if everybody, if we had JATS XML for every single article that's out there. But I think it's potentially never going to happen, and if it ever will, it will be it's going to be quite a while, right? So until that.
Maybe fine them or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Just send me over.
Yeah. I'll just threaten that you're going to come round. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.